much for coming. My name is Mr. Graham. I'm one of the theater teachers here. I teach the Theater Arts 11 course, which is the junior class. These are your wonderful students who've worked very, very hard to put this show together. Just to tell you a little bit about this show and about the process, we started this festival 3 years ago with a really eager group of 11th graders who were very interested in doing this style of theater, which is called verbatim theater. And verbatim theater is all about taking the real words of people and making them into a script and making them into a play. So all of the words that you're going to hear tonight are the words of real people that were interviewed for this play. So a lot of them are students at the school who were interviewed. Some of them are faculty members, teachers, administrators were interviewed for this project, and a lot of their words are used in the play. Now, some of them are taken and placed in other locations or other scenes. You'll see some kind of funky, creative ways that these words were used, but all of the words were taken from transcripts. So the students wrote interview questions based on a topic, which in this case is teen mental health. Some of the topics we've covered in the past were the top shooting, bullying in the black community. Help me out. What else did we do?
We did like
reproductive health, women's health, yes, yeah, which was fabulous, and LGBTQ issues. So lots of topics, lots of issues. And this year, teen mental health. The group decided on that. They wrote interview questions. They went out and scheduled interviews, recorded them, transcribed them, meaning took those interviews and wrote them down or typed them out word by word, and then took all of that data, all of that information to create the play, the script that you're about to see. So they had to edit it, figure out how it all went together. Sometimes it meant moving this line and what this person said and this person said and putting them next to each other because that was interesting, taking this interview and that interview and putting them in the same scene. So it's a really interesting, challenging process and product that you're going to see. Of course, they all were part of those interviews and they're all performing. They also directed it themselves. They designed it themselves. It's happening on the set of the senior play, which is happening right after this if you'd like to stay. So it's a really interesting process. So thank you so much for coming. The show's about half an hour long. I don't know if, because there's a show right after this, I don't know if we'll have time for a formal talk back, but I would love it if you would ask questions of these students when you see them about their process, about why they chose this topic and how did they go about doing these interviews and choosing who to interview and choosing what interviews to use in the play, because there were also lots of interviews that were left on the cutting room floor. So anyway, thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Class of 2026 here at Bab Club, and we have been given the opportunity to research and inform the audience tonight about teen mental health awareness. This play will disclose the negatives and positives in this world that impact a teen's mental health. All these scenes are exactly word for word by the students and teachers of the school. Therefore, these are their real thoughts, real answers, real feelings. And this play showcases how real the world impacts the children of the future. This play will tackle many serious, deep topics such as drug abuse, gun violence, death, racism, and suicide. And it's wise and understandable that you leave said topics if they trigger you. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Have you ever compared yourself to others online?
Sometimes when I see posts online, I think to myself, like, damn, I wish I had good hair just for their aesthetic.
For me, I used to compare myself on social media to others, but now I try to follow people who are more so like me, so I don't have to,
When I see friends post their stories online, hanging out with others, it makes me feel left out, especially when someone I don't really know invites a specific group that I'm in, but doesn't invite me, basically singling me out.
Yeah. I feel like a backing character when I see that people I know are having fun or just out without me. Makes me feel left out. But when I see their posts, it's kind of out of my control, so I just like and share, all that.
how do you feel when you see your friends hanging out without you? I feel like I gotta do better. I gotta have more friends and do more for myself.
Because why would you sit there and do that? Like, you're so fake.
So you don't ever feel a certain sense of betrayal? Like you're not good enough?
No, I don't think like that. I just think if you can leave me out, I can leave you out.
I've gotta one up them.
I don't think that when that happens, but I definitely do feel betrayed.
I think that's what everyone suspects the team to feel, and at times I don't feel betrayed. I just feel like I'm not good enough to be around those who I consider my friends. But again, it's out of my control, so I just like the post, share the post, to show them that I acknowledge them having fun, and something that I can do about it.
How do you decide what to share and what to keep private?
You shouldn't put your personal business on social media. Unless it's something you know no one is going to make fun of.
When I see something like that, I don't really want to post it because I fear that they might see me some type of way or think I look dumb.
Have you ever feel pressured to present a certain persona online? I act like myself online. If you don't like that, you can unfollow me.
Period. How I wish I never got on social media, I wish I never got on it.
It's addictive.
Like literally everything stays online.
What's that thing called? Your digital footprint? Yeah, that. And that everything eats at you or bothers you in a way. You're always gonna see or hear something you really don't want to. And it's really, really hard. For me, social media is kind of like a tree. It has its branches. Get led to the wrong one and it might snap. And everything can fall. You, relationships, possibly fame. It just has a dark side that no one really talks about.
There's definitely a lot of pressure on there, but it has made it easier to interact with friends.
I think it depends, honestly. Like, if it was something I was really confident about, like sharing one of my poems or just showing something that was really impactful for me and I know was going to stick with me for a while, it would be something I want people to see and like and be like, oh wow, that's so cool, or oh wow, I did something similar to this, so it's nice to relate to. Because in a way, that's how everyone connects. If you post everything, the world can see everything. And I think that's kind of why it's good that people have private accounts for only the few selected to see.
There's definitely a lot of pressure.
I don't know. If there's something that's stressing me out, I just block it, move on, find something else to do.
It depends on what the topic is.
Like, I don't know what you want me to say. I just turn it off, scroll past it. I don't know.
It just takes away from people who are hurting themselves off camera.
Over the past decade, the rate of teen suicide has risen dramatically. At the same time, a 10-year study at BYU discovered that teenage girls who spent 2 to 3 hours daily on social media at age 13 are at higher risk for suicide as young adults. Researchers conclude that girls and women are more attuned and more sensitive to posts not being well-received comparisons. They also tend to be more emotionally attached to the content they post.
It would affect them terribly. They might not want to seek help in those situations.
Another notable case. Felicia Garcia, age 15, the young teen committed suicide after enduring public humiliation and online harassment. Felicia was slut-shamed and body-shamed online after rumors about her personal life were spread on social media. She died by suicide by jumping in front of a train shortly after tweeting, "I can't, I'm done, I give up." Friends and investigators noted that only online bullying played a central role, and she had been pleading for help.
Her case highlights the relentless peer harassment that impacts a teen's mental health.
The only way we can stop this unnecessary hate towards bodies and personas is through personal action. It's not going to be a law and it's not something that can be enforced. It's up to the person behind the screen to realize the amount of power they have in their words.
Phobia, it's a diagnosis. It's basically a specific anxiety disorder.
There are a lot of different factors that impact the development or the starting of having a phobia. They can happen at any point in a person's life.
So,
They could be initiated like a traumatic event.
for example, perhaps you have a car accident and you develop the phobia of that. You may also be in a car and develop the phobia of the color red because the car is red. So sometimes it's not the most obvious thing that can initiate or even trigger a phobia.
Some phobias have a more significant impact than others. And sometimes there's not really a rhyme or a reason to it.
We can all understand how your thoughts can impact physically how you feel. Cause I freak out, I get anxious, I get nervous.
Coping skills are vast. And I think the most difficult and frustrating thing with coping skills is they do kind of really have to make the effort to figure out which ones work for you.
And it means trying it, genuinely trying it, which is hard because a lot of times when you're struggling with something like a phobia, it can be difficult to think that it'll actually make a difference.
As well as to set them up for success. Being more able to react in a way that's healthy. Because if you're already having a bad day and then something sets you off, then you're more vulnerable to getting overwhelmed.
Or having the impact of a phobia really ruins your day. And then that's where you will implement coping skills. Why is not the right question, although it could be helpful during treatment.
For example, we made a plan for before you go, what are you thinking about? How are you handling yourself? Are you able to keep yourself calm in advance? Because you're probably already thinking about it anyway.
Having an action plan. What am I going to do? I'm working on acknowledging that was not as dangerous. First, we need to get to the root. Where is this fear coming from, and how has it gotten to this point?
People try to get to the root of what is the cause or the underlying factors of having a phobia. You know? You might have the symptoms of a phobia without actually meeting the criteria of a diagnosis for a phobia.
Other things that might impact your well-being, like being in school. What are your social supports? So the environment you're in.
Overall, attending to your well-being. And that can look like sleep hygiene. Attending to your mental wellness and everything that you need. Pretty much everything is relevant.
I do think it's only beneficial to get assessed treatment, and then you decide for yourself if you need treatment. It's very rare that anybody's ever obligated to seek treatment. It's very rare.
So, it is a choice. And I think if you're not ready yet, that doesn't mean that you don't at least take the first step to getting connected. Because it could take a long time to figure out if it's the right fit. Because you never know.
But do it with support. Do it with a very trained clinical provider who can give you all the proper treatment you need to handle and be successful.
Otherwise, you can actually backfire. But I do definitely recommend that you get treatment for phobias because of the limiting impact on their quality of life. You don't have to see it whether it's relevant or irrelevant. There could always be some truth to the fear.
So again, working with a therapist or a clinical provider who can help you understand the thinking behind it, the behaviors and emotions, and teaching specific skills so you can live a better quality of life.
Yeah, well, that's it. Thank you.
I have a phobia. Sometimes I struggle to rationalize how I feel. At the beginning of the year, as soon as I get my schedule, there's always something I do. It's not always on purpose or intentionally, just subconsciously happens. I find myself always making an escape plan. If I'm real reality. So it has to be a bit rational. At the same time, I understand this probably won't happen to us. I hope it doesn't happen.
I think it's important to keep, obviously, school buildings and students safe. It's unfortunate that we have to, at this day and age, that we have to go through these measures. We didn't have this when I was in school. Doors would be open and people could come and go, and school was like a safe haven. It was almost like an unwritten rule. Unfortunately, today with the upstate violence, we need to make sure that you guys are safe and you have a good, safe environment to come to and learn. And be kids, So I think it's important. It's unfortunate, but it's needed.
Yeah, I actually think of it as two separate things. Not to be overly direct, but it's never a bully who comes in and starts shooting a gun. Those guys have different issues. But the bullying issue is very serious. People die from it. On the receiving end of bullying, especially at vulnerable ages, results in death on a day-to-day basis. As a teacher, you have to watch out for it. You have to address it. You can't dismiss it. I think there's a problem in dismissing it. In school administration, in teachers, in parents, and all across society. They treat it like it's not a real issue. It's a real issue. And the more you dismiss it, the bigger that problem becomes. You can't dismiss it. You have to address it. You have to have conversations, which we try to do. We do in this building, on a day-to-day basis. It's a part of our fabric.
I was bullied, and no one listened. And then that, and it's over and over and over again. And that does really make an impact on somebody's mental health, right? So, and unfortunately, if they don't have the support system at home or a stable environment, these acts of violence that cause all of it, and that affect it, right? So I think schools are putting in no bullying policies.
I don't think school policies are considered bullying. They've always kind of been sort of, anti-bullying, but they've gotten better, And when I used to get bullied, it just kind of fell on deaf ears, and other teachers were like, oh, that's what kids do. But it really just does take a toll on you. So, but now times have changed, and kids are being little creeps on their phones, texting each other and saying bad rumors out there, and but now they're attacking teachers, so we don't have an answer for that. But people in this room, students, they really don't have a problem expressing themselves or speaking up. They'll find ways through social medias or whatever, and they'll go into rallies and stuff. And as they get into upper, high school, they'll get into more programs, more rallies, and festivals. Speak about those topics. focus on the positive, the good stuff in life, and being into more sports and competitive programs or whatever, and having what's the word? A nemesis. It's kind of artificial to create sort of that community bond. But yeah.
Life goes on.
I'm a little bit older.
Thinking they're helping by spreading information.
Doesn't seem like there's ever a super good solution.
They're faking it.
Life goes on.
Just everyone hit it and no one talked about it.
I can't think of any historical figures that I focused on that advocated for mental health. I'm literally racking my brain. I can't think of it.
Because I'm doing the self-diagnosis, I can't treat myself to be better, and I can't be responsible for the things I need to be responsible for. And I think that can be very unhealthy, because it's kind of like justifying for being stuck in a state or being unwell, and that's not good. So you also need to learn that you can't always suffer with a mental disorder, right?
I see more people on medications today than there ever used to be. And I think it's what you said, like that self-diagnosis. I think they're like, going into the doctors and saying, oh, these are the symptoms that I'm going to present.
If we talk about progressives, right at the turn of the century, there was a shift in the focus on the social sciences of the brain. And Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, those people, they really explored it. I feel like a lot of it was eugenics, though. I feel like people were using racism to try to justify treating people worse.
So many Asian cultures, still kind of teach to keep it inside, maybe, and to suppress it. But I feel like a big part of American culture is talking about it. We as people, us Americans, we love talking about our feelings.
I think it started off probably good, but then historically I feel like it was used to hurt people, which is why so many people are opposed to talking about it because of their fears of being labeled and how people were treated in the past.
Yeah, now in high school, there's an even more community of support for mental health than back when I went in the 1990s.
But for a lot of students who can't get the treatment that they need, I kind of use that as a start. Like, how are you feeling today? Or what disorders are you relating to? Because that gives me a lot of information. Like, how do you think media has impacted the glorifications of mental health?
I mean, I don't think social media really impacts it. I'm a little bit older, so we've always seen it as a stigmatism. Like, it wasn't something that people had respect for, But I do think with social media, it brings more awareness to it, so it maybe does help a bit.
I'm excited about the growing acceptance of mental health awareness and their disorders. But I wouldn't categorize it in glorification. Like what you were referring to, the social media and popular culture. And there's kind of a over-relating stuff on social media about mental health disorders. There's a functional piece and then a not functional piece. Like how social media has the negative impacts on mental illnesses.
I think back in the day, especially in the 1850s and beyond, people were thrown in asylums, just to be treated as prisoners. And then we're going to see like Dorothea Dix, and she's going to talk about how we should treat people better. And then there's going to be a movement.
I don't know, I can't. I don't know, Dorothea.
We're going to try to get everyone out of asylums. We're going to try to put them out, but then that leads to other issues because it just doesn't seem like there's ever a good solution, especially for the people who struggle on the extreme ends of mental illnesses.
There are kids that come down every day with illnesses. They're probably faking it. But as a professional like myself, I kind of have to take everyone serious.
They might not tend to harm, like they might just be spreading information just to spread it in hopes of relating with each other. But then there's also a concept of people spreading false or bad information because of a bias that they have. So this can negatively impact it.
So I think there's also a stigma on social media, and I sometimes feel like some people just get the satisfaction of just relating to other people online. And I really do need to talk to people like professionally about this instead of that's what they would go to instead of. So many people, adults, will tell kids like, suck it up, toughen up, you know? Like, you're gonna deal with this your whole life, man. You gotta get used to it.
And then you realize if you had a broken arm, you'd go and get help. Why wouldn't you get help if you had a mental illness?
You know?
Drug abuse. So, how do drugs impact mental health and emotional well-being? Well, drug use is a band-aid. I mean, drug use is the same as alcohol use. So, it's the same as everything else. It's a coping skill. It's to help deal with all the problems you have in life. So, I think that, well, in the short term, you can 100% help deal with it. It's just putting a band-aid in a very insufficient dressing on a wound that just makes it worse. How do societal views of drug use influence the behavior of individuals who experience with drugs? I think that that's a complicated question because I think a lot of drug use, especially when it comes to, well, specifically where you live and based off your family, you know, and it's, I think it's just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I think that when people are constantly told that something is really bad, it's because it's too good. They want it more, like, that's why they're told not to do drugs, because they feel too good or too dangerous for your brain. And, well, your brain really can't handle that. What are some of the most common misconceptions about drug use and its effects? I think that substances are often seen to always be a choice. So at some point, once you get deep enough into, well, substance abuse, it becomes less of a mental choice that you're making than a physical necessity or the one you need help from. Phobias. As we reach the end of our show, we thank you for your time, and hopefully this play has opened your minds about mental health. As a group, we wanted to explore the extreme ends of mental health, but what was demonstrated here is not the only solution. Help is always available. Our feelings are real, our pain is real. We understand that this story deeply resonates with some. If you face similar feelings, know that you're seen and supported. And for everyone or anyone who has had thoughts of self-harm or suicide, reach out to those who care. Our resources are located in our programs.
Thank you so much for coming, folks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks to our incredible actors. We do have just a couple of minutes for a really, really brief talk back. And I forgot to mention right before we started that we have a few actors who are ill, and some who couldn't be here tonight. And so our team very quickly had to redistribute some lines and some roles, which is why you saw some scripts being used on stage tonight. I meant to mention that earlier, and I forgot. So actually, that's a huge credit to this team, that they are resilient. They're very resilient and can figure out those problems and problem solve very, very quickly, which is a life skill, right? And that's really what we hope that the students ultimately leave this school with, are the life skills that theater can teach, and that's a key one. So if there are any questions, we only have time to questions, but any questions about the process or creating this piece that you have for our actor, researcher, writer, director, designer, multi-hyphenate artists up here.
Just excellent. Just everything all together. Just beautiful. Just.
Yeah.
So I know it was a heavy topic for you guys to kind of grapple with. As you were going through and doing the research and putting it together, how did you guys manage your own internal feelings about the topic and the information you were getting?
I think as teens, we relate to a lot of these topics, actually. You know, teens go through everything every day, but since we're kids, we can't always express our feelings or can't really talk about them. So when doing research about these topics, it kind of hit home a little bit for some of us. And I think it was really great for us to get our point across through this play.
I think we kind of also had to be mindful because like it's such a serious topic. Like we were trying to be cautious of like our environment and like who our audience was going to be, because we still wanted to make the statement like impactful and tell the true realities, but we also didn't want to traumatize the audience.
There you go.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
As somebody who lost somebody very close to them to suicide, like what you described is very real, like the emotion, you know, because it happens so unexpected, and that's usually how it works. Like you wouldn't see no signs. It could be somebody so happy, and then you start to realize after the fact that they're already gone. So it's like, you did a very good job at explaining that. So.
Thank you.
Did any of you do your research or interviews with people outside of the school, or was it just staff, administration, and friends?
I interviewed my boss actually, because as soon as we started the play, she was the first person I thought of. I interviewed her on drug abuse, and the answers that she gave me were like, I expected it, but there was more for me to learn. Like, when she was explaining stuff, like, okay, I know this, but then it's like, oh, the outcome of that, or there's more to that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Any last words that you guys want to say about the work or about the process, or any particular challenges or things that you learned that were interesting to you about doing this kind of work?
I think the ending was the hardest because I wrote the ending and with help with Trin and everyone here too. But I wanted it to be where everyone kind of off themselves. And sorry, but because I thought it would be very impactful. Yeah. But what Zion said, that we had to be considerate of who was watching the show and how that might impact someone else watching. And I consider this, and I understand this, because not everyone deals with mental health the same way. They might have different reasonings for what they're going through, or different solutions to help them. Like the narrator said, that this is the only demonstration that we did show, but that's not the only demonstration that others use. And I think we all have to be mindful for that.
So one of the things we chatted about was the difference between artistic depictions of things like that, like the TV show 13 Reasons Why, which was very popular but also very graphic in its depiction of this topic. But then we also looked at examples from plays like The Laramie Project, which doesn't necessarily deal with the topic of suicide, but does deal with a murder, and how that group of artists who were doing verbatim theater around that topic, around a specific murder of Matthew Shepard, how they were able to artistically express what happened to him without graphically showing it on stage in a still very powerful way. So those kinds of conversations are also happening at the same time while we're creating this type of work. Mrs. Ryan, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I was just wondering, during your research, I know you guys put a lot of work into this. What was something that kind of shocked you, or like you didn't realize, or something that you learned in this process about teen mental health or anything like that?
I think the varying answers regarding age. A lot of the adults we interviewed seemed to think that there was a big improvement in advocacy for mental health, and how it's become a bigger thing over time than it used to be, especially in some of the teachers, compared to the kids who, the couple that we talked to tended to think we needed more, that there wasn't enough. And obviously the teachers agree with that, but I think it's just the difference in how they grew up as kids and as teens. I think it was interesting to see that difference.
Were you going to ask?
I was just going to say about pertaining to school shootings, how like the staff really does care about. I'm not saying they never did, but I'm just saying how much more like they were concerned about our safety and just saying little things to make us feel welcome here. And it's just, you got to realize that. Yeah.
Is there another hand? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, when I interviewed the teachers, I feel like our goal was to go more towards teens, because we thought, you would get a closer answer to how we would answer. But when you interviewed the teachers, you realize they're not just a teacher, they're a human too. So when they started talking, I'm like, okay, we kind of see the more vulnerable side of them.
It's interesting when you get people talking, what they sort of share. And, yeah, it's fascinating. Is there one more question or anything? Yeah.
Well, I thought the play was very powerful. It had a powerful punch. Although it was a small crowd, it could be so very beneficial if it taking place in some of these schools sometime. Some of the high schools that show the the children what things are all about the bullying and the suicide and different things that's going on with this media. I think it would be very good if you all could kind of hit some of the schools down there, the high schools, and let them know what's going on. They probably know, but and let them know that you all are young people and you all know so much about things.
So take the show on the road, Mr. Graham.
Right.
Show on the road.
Social media. Social media is everybody's teens' view. That's how they get informed. Social media. Put it on social media. Let the voice out.
Yeah, because they will, like, as adults and parents, sometimes we explain things to our children, but we think that it falls on deaf ears. But my child, I can tell him the same thing all the time, and he can hear his friends say it, and it's the same thing I said, but because it's coming from a different mouth, he gets it. So take your show on the road.
Take it on the road.
Yep.
So I think you all did beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you. I agree. And you know, it's yes, you send your children here to learn how to act and sing and dance and write and all of these things. It's all in service, I think, of this work, right? This type of work, and what the true value of arts in our community is, and what the power it can have is. So thank you all very much. Yeah, continue the conversation at home too. Thank you very much for coming. We're gonna switch.